Welcome to Uncomfortable, conversations about culture and Christianity. My name is Eric, and today I'm joined by Jess.
Hello, world.
And Alex.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom. I love you.
Aww.
In 2 days. I love you every day, but in 2 days.
Specifically, you love her more on Mother's Day.
I know she listens, and so I just, and my wife, happy Mother's Day to you, too. I love you as well. Mother of my children.
Oh, yeah. That's a good recovery there. Happy Mother's Day to you, Jess.
Thank you.
Jess, that you were my third choice for Happy Mother's
and
Day.
Eric, you're going to say Happy Mother's Day to
Christina, yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for reminding me. I don't want to get in trouble.
great moms.
All great moms. Yeah. Welcome to the podcast, and thanks for reminding us about Mother's Day. You're
welcome.
listening to this on Friday when it releases, you still have a couple days, so maybe we helped you out.
Yeah.
Go get a gift or something.
Do it. Get a card at least, at minimum. So I don't know if you guys ever drive around Omaha, but you'll notice that there there are car washes aplenty. Like, they are popping up everywhere. All of these car washes that are like subscription based and all those types of things. And so one of our listeners Christina sent in a question because she was at one of those and was vacuuming, because a lot of them you get free vacuums with it. And she was just like, what is like the craziest thing? She was curious. It got her thinking, what's the craziest thing you've ever sucked up with a vacuum? So maybe not like so that's it. But can we talk about these car washes too? I mean, this is do you think like...
What are we talking about? We're talking about car washes or vacuums?
It is amazing how many of these. Are you guys a subscriber? I know for sure, Jess's car is always clean, and I saw the window sticker. Jess is a Russell Speeders.
I do. And I'm telling you, we
Russell
meet
Speeders?
with Russell Speeders. We meet with someone that helps us budget every single, once a month. And I don't do any of extra stuff, but I'm like, all I want to budget is for that car wash, because it just makes me feel like other moms can relate to this. If you have a clean car, you feel like you just at least have something together.
At least outside of it. It's just like our lives.
My inside,
as long as the outside of your life appears clean, no one needs to see the inside.
Well, you can look at it that way, or you can look at it as at least you have something. Something's clean.
I'm a fan of it in the winter.
I'm terrible at washing my car. I do it so rarely. I probably should do it more.
It does. I mean, it makes it more affordable. But anyway, I'll last to the vacuums.
Yeah. What's the weirdest thing you vacuumed? Our saddest thing, maybe.
Good question.
I don't know.
What have we vacuumed up?
Yeah, that you
on accident.
Accidentally
not
vacuumed?
You purposefully vacuumed
Okay,
it. Are there weird things that you purposely vacuum?
I've purposely vacuumed my dogs.
Yeah.
They have a little bit longer hair. So if they roll around in the leaves.
Has anybody used the Flowbee thing? They advertised in the 90s. It was it would cut your hair and you'd attach it to your vacuum.
No.
And it'd suck your hair up and
Did
cut
you?
it. No.
I do sometimes my daughter's ponytails with a vacuum.
Oh,
I learned that on TikTok.
Have you posted that on TikTok?
I did actually post it, but I learned it from that as well.
I always did more of I would always call it the daddy messy bun, where I would just grab all of her hair and then I'd say spin, and then my daughter would just spin a circle till it tightened up, and then I'd put a twisty band on it.
You do need to use a you need, the attachment. You can't have a bunch of nasty stuff, and otherwise your kid's hair is full of everything you've ever vacuumed
I can't think of anything I vacuumed. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff that I've lost along the way and just been what did I do with that guitar pick or something
probably
like that?
Vacuumed it
and
up.
Then it probably got vacuumed. We have a Roomba now, and so
God bless
it
the
just
RoboVax.
It sucks up all kinds of stuff that I don't. Who knows what I'm losing on a weekly basis? It's probably in there, but I can't think of anything. For this, I'm going to derail us because all I can think about. I was trying to think about things I vacuumed up, and all I could think about was this lamp I had in the 4th grade in my bedroom. And I was supposed to be cleaning my room, which made me think of vacuuming. And my mom was like, "Are you cleaning your room?" No. But there was a lamp in there that didn't have a light bulb in it. And so I plugged that in. I was supposed to be vacuuming. And I just left it there. And it was on, plugged in, no light bulb. Later on, I was sitting on the floor, and I randomly stuck my toe in it.
Oh, no.
And it electrocuted me. Not electrocuted me, but it shocked me.
Yeah.
And So, anyways, I should have been vacuuming up weird things, but instead I stuck my toe in a lamp.
You did another weird thing.
That's all I could think of. I was like, what's the weirdest thing that happened around a vacuum cleaner? And I guess that's not answering that question very well, but
How long does it take you to vacuum your pool?
Yeah, our swimming pool. That's probably all the algae.
Do you have one of the Robo?
No. Probably the weirdest thing I vacuumed and it's probably in my car, just random stuff that you forget, but I think I've vacuumed definitely a few of my kids' like stickers, probably a vaccination record. No, I've never actually done that. I did vacuum like a dollar bill one time at one of those car wash places, and
then you could never get it back.
Yeah, you can open them.
Oh, you can?
Yeah. So this one was at a Rocket car wash, and I was like, no, my dollar, because it was actually my kid's dollar that he left in like the side compartment.
And that's like worth way more than $1.
Yeah. And so
I feel like we should have prepared for this and had like a really elaborate, like, oh, I had my great grandmother's wedding ring. I was going to use it to propose to my wife, and then or my girlfriend at the time.
Is that what you're suggesting?
Then I sucked up the ring, and lie. That's what I was suggesting.
That's why banter is so fun. We just don't know what's coming.
Well, if you have vacuumed up something crazy,
we'd like to hear about it.
It would be fun.
Share. Probably something more exciting than us.
Yeah, for sure. All right, up next we got headlines. All right, our first headline comes from BusinessInsider.com, and it reads, 100-year-old man has broken the Guinness World Record for the longest time employed at the same company. 84 years. Wow.
That's a long time.
Yeah. That is a long time. That is a strange Guinness World Record to break.
15 years old, he started at this job, a textile company in Santa Catarina, Brazil. So I was wondering how old he was when he officially was on the payroll.
His name is Walter Orthman. Textile company. That's interesting. He had a good long career there. I mean, what's the longest you've ever been at a job?
Yeah, this is my longest stretch right now. So I've been at Christ Community for 7 years consecutively, plus 3 years before, a decade of my life. I just want to throw that out there, but 7 years is the longest.
Wow.
The longest. How about you?
I was at Grace University, RIP, before here, and I was there I just missed tenure. So I was almost 10 years.
Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. My father-in-law he probably would have been like this guy. He started at his company, like first job, his only job he ever had, and it was a company up in South Sioux City, and it was, textile type of work, but then they just stopped. It was a plant. And so stopped like 2 years ago, forced him into retirement because of that. And I also have an uncle that started at Target when he was 15, and he has just loved himself some Target since.
Just still there, huh?
Yeah. So, it runs in the family. We're pretty faithful to our employership.
I mean, it is a thing that now it seems to be less valued with younger generations. A lot more moving around. Yeah. Most people are staying at jobs for less amounts of time. But it does seem like this was almost, along with the valuing hard work, it kind of came along with, commitment to a company and lasting a while. But this is how it does it. It says back in 1983, kids were expected to work to help support the family, he said in a press release. As the oldest son of 5, my mother took me to find a job at the age of 14.
Wow.
So that's crazy, man.
It's just a long time. Like you're working at the same place if you get married, have kids, tons of life experience.
Yeah.
Same job. I mean, it's got to maybe feel good for stability. Like I don't have to worry about my job because he obviously loved it. It says in the article.
Yeah. Well, now I got to start thinking about weird ways I can get Guinness.
I was trying to figure out if he retired.
Guinness records.
Or if he's still, if he's going to break the record again next year.
He's going to break it next year.
You can just break it every year? Yeah.
I would assume so.
That's the long game. I'm just gonna keep breaking the Guinness Book of World Records.
Good luck next year. But I would have guessed they don't give him a plaque every year. Even if he does. I don't know.
Oh, I think they should.
It's surprisingly, I don't know. I shouldn't say surprisingly easy, but it is easier than people think to get in the Guinness Book of Records. Like
people have done some crazy.
Yeah, you just got to make something up that nobody's done.
But this seems like a legitimate, like I didn't just make it up kind of record. I mean, having 84 years at a company, that sounds like old school. What Guinness Book of World Records was founded on before they went whatever bad words you want to say. They went crazy or.
Well, they're just.
I'm kidding.
They had like the
more interesting
world's hairiest man back then. All those circus side
world's longest fingernails, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I remember like getting those books every few years, like as a kid. Did you guys get those?
Yeah.
And it had just all the most random stuff in them.
Well, maybe we can get one for sucking up the weirdest thing in a vacuum.
Yeah. If you want to. Yeah.
Well, maybe coming up next, we're going to be talking about MLMs. So maybe we can see if, anybody's worked at an MLM for a really long time. I doubt 84 years, though.
Doubtful.
We'll see. That is up next. That's right. You heard it right. We're going to be talking about multi-level marketing. So stay tuned for that. Today we are talking about multi-level marketing, and we thought, well, do we know any experts? And Dawn, you rose to the top with 18 years of experience in multi-level marketing. We thought, well, there we go.
It's a scary thought, isn't it?
I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I guess we're going to get to the bottom of that today.
Yeah.
Before we started, we were talking about how would we define multi-level marketing, or as we'll probably refer to it multiple times as MLM. If people are completely oblivious to what this is, and you said you came prepared with the definition.
I did. I went to our good friend, Mr. Google.
Okay.
And it's pretty decent to separate the difference between multi-level marketing and a pyramid scheme, because sometimes people kind of just lump them all together.
Get thrown in all
and
together.
Basically, the difference is that in multi-level marketing or direct sales, you can make money by selling product. The difference with a pyramid scheme or a pure multi-level marketing is all the focus is on recruiting other people to buy the products and sell the products. So you're making money off of other people joining the business. So the focus is more on recruiting. So to be fair, I was always in legit companies that sold a product, but I also recruited people to sell. So.
Okay. So it's sometimes also referred to as network marketing, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's all about the networking, meeting people to have contacts. If you think about people who say, well, I don't know enough friends to sell this product to. Well, you're not supposed to. If you're doing it as a business, you should meet people through them that then help you sell the product to new people you don't know. So,
Which I'm sure we'll get into how it's changed probably a ton with internet, social media, all those kinds of things from when you did it. But I'm just curious, like, what everybody else's experience in them are, including, you, Dawn, talking about what companies you did work for and what that experience was. But Eric and Jess, what's your experience, the taste in your mouth? Have you been a part of one, bought products from one? What are some of them that maybe we would know about offhand pretty easily? The flagship ones that have been around for a long time.
What do you think, Eric?
Go ahead, Jess.
All right. I would say, so my first encounter with multi-level marketing was very distinctly at Starbucks. I was in college, and this lady came up to me, and she was like, your eyes are so pretty. And I was like, thank you, God. I just needed some encouragement today. And she's like, I have a great mascara that would just go so great. And I have an eyeshadow that would just like bring out the hazel in your eyes.
Wow.
And I was like, I just remember feeling deflated.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of like my first, I remember that still, like when you even pitched that we were going to do this, it was like, I thought of that first of all. But then there's also like I normally seek out the multi-level marketing if I want to buy it. So like I have Pampered Chef stuff that I love, Tupperware stuff that I love. I feel like the things that have been around for a long time that my grandma and my mom used, it's like, oh, I want that little pickle holder that goes in my fridge. Just random stuff that I feel like is, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
No juice. You probably
Perfect. I don't think we ever had one.
You put the can of pickles in it and then you pull it out. Juice stays in the bottom.
Nailed it.
Pickle.
No, we have a masher, a Pampered Chef masher.
Yeah.
I think we've got a
there's all kinds of
ice
stuff.
cream scoop.
Yeah. So there's certain things that I like, certain ones that I really like, and then there's like other ones where I'm like, don't.
You're not going to name the company that of your eyeshadow? Or
No,
did you even get there?
I don't feel like I want to name names because I think that like there's like really great people that I know that still sell those things, and I don't want to like bash on them because
I'm glad you said that because I came prepared to name names.
You go for it. You go for it, girl.
I like it.
Yeah.
But
Eric, how about you?
Yeah, for me, let's see. When I was like in the early mid 90s, I remember my sister being a part of home interiors, which was like they would go around, have parties, sell pictures and shelves and things you would decorate your house with. That was probably my early. At the time, I had no idea what it was. And then in high school, my dad signed me up for Amway.
Was it like Merry Christmas? Here's your gift.
No, he met someone. The guy came over, and it was kind of like.
Like he didn't want to do it.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Eric can do it.
It was kind of like he was thinking like giving me a business opportunity. I'll pay for you to get into this, and then you can. I had no idea what it was. This guy was very salesy, and so I listened and jumped on board and did nothing with it. And then, let's see. This was early 2000s. I was pretty newly married. Met some people through a church connection. Got signed up into Quickstar.
Eric, you have quite the laundry list.
Which was, I found out later, was Amway, rebranded.
Really?
So I signed up for Amway twice.
That's sneaky.
I know, right?
And the thing is, like, we got into it, and it's always a lot about buying their products. Like, that's what you have to buy it yourself, and that's kind of the scheme. And at the moment I realized, after we'd already paid for the initial buy-in and everything, I realized it was Amway. I looked at my wife, I'm like, we got to get out of this. And so I had to call the guy and explain that I didn't realize it was Amway. Oh, well, yeah, but it's, whatever. He gave me a spiel. I was like, no, we want out. You said that if I ask within 30 days, we can get our money back. Well, no one's ever done this. Okay.
Wow.
Well,
let me be your
I'll
first,
be your first,
sir.
And so we got our money back. And then I had a similar experience where I was working at a Christian bookstore. A guy came up to me, and he asked me, like, he gave me a compliment about my sales skills or whatever, and then started asking me if I was interested in a business opportunity. Well, I was probably, again, very young and naive and gullible, and I thought, well, this guy thinks I'm worth something. This is pretty cool. So he said, yeah, you should come to this thing. It's happening at, I don't know, the Motel 6 or something, a Ramada. I don't know.
Radisson,
yeah. Someplace out, a little convention center room. Okay, yeah, I feel special. So I went to that and sat down. I got there a little bit late. The room was full. There was like one seat in the middle in the very front. I thought this was like just me meeting this guy there to have a conversation. I didn't know it was like a whole group thing. I go in, it's awkward because I'm walking in while they're giving the presentation. I sit down in the middle of the room, and I'm just looking around like, what is this? Oh, is it? The next thing I know, I hear the, I don't remember. It was either Quickstar or Amway. I don't know. It was the third time.
The third time?
That would have been the third. I didn't sign up. As soon as I heard it, I just stood up again. I wasn't probably there very long at all, 15 minutes, got up and walked out. So I like to say I've signed up for Amway 2.5 times. That's my experience. I mean, my wife has had experience with some of the essential oils like Young Living, stuff like that. So I'm familiar with it. But I mean, you got Mary Kay, you've got, Avon. It just goes on and on and
31.
on and on. And yeah. But that's my personal experience with it. Not the greatest experience. So
after this, I'd like to buy you a steak dinner at Anthony's Steakhouse. I think it's closing, which I feel like every time I got one in the mail, it was like, because people always send them in the mail, and it's like, I have a business opportunity we selected you for, and it was always at Anthony's Steakhouse in Omaha. So I don't know, they're gonna have to find a new spot. But
what about you?
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, my mom used Pampered Chef stuff. We have a neighbor right now that actually just got back from Puerto Rico from Pampered Chef from a vacation that they provided for her and a friend. And so, and she's like a principal, got her doctorate. Like she doesn't need, like she actually believes in the products.
Sure.
I mean, she gave us stuff for Christmas, which was nice. One of those brownie, things. People
the brownie pan.
Right now.
Yeah.
So they all have edges.
Yes.
Edges,
I got one of those too.
So-
Pampered Chef, right?
So that's my experience, and we have, our lives have been revolutionized a few times. Once by Norwex,
Only water.
Only water.
Yep.
And we use it, and also I think Thieves, Young Living.
Yeah.
They'll change your life. So
I
I think
wonder who
both of
people
those
would
we
think
signed up for
out of
to
the
get
three
like
of
the
them.
free.
Oh, to get the free gift.
When you sign up, typically with I think those ones you get. It's like you pay $100, but you get like $200 worth of stuff, and then now you can buy at a discount, and then you start selling.
Right.
too.
That's pretty common.
I can see you. Really, really working
Good.
at
I'm right
MLM.
next to you. I'm glad you can see
I can
me.
really see you working at MLM.
So Don, what's
I don't know what that means. We'll find out.
I mentioned you had 18 years experience.
Yeah.
Where's
You'd be good at
that come from?
Yeah, when I was in high school, this is crazy. Before I ever had my own kitchen that I cooked in, I got recruited to sell Tupperware. And I did Tupperware for 2 years, and that was back in the day before social media, where the sales meant you went to somebody's house and you demonstrated the products. And I was good at it. And I sold it for a couple years, then I went to college. While I was in college, I sold Avon on the college dorm hall, bought my own stuff. It was a little different because you're not actually doing presentations. You're just, hey, I'm your local Avon lady.
Yeah.
And
Here's the book.
yeah, so that was in college.
What is Avon?
Avon's makeup, mostly
okay.
makeup and skincare. Yeah, it's been around a long time. In fact, I think one of the articles I looked at said it was actually like the second highest grossing company. So they have a lot of products. They're in a lot of places.
I've heard of it. I just didn't know. And
Yeah.
that makes sense. I don't buy a lot of makeup.
Makes total sense.
Right.
Yeah. So then after we got married, I was a stay-at-home mom, and Michael was about 2 years old when I got introduced to Longaberger. And Longaberger is a company it actually went out of business, and now it's back. And I don't know exactly what the model of the company is now, but when I started, it was mostly home shows like Tupperware. So we would start out with friends, but then they would introduce you to their friends. And you kind of got some buy-in because they knew somebody who they trusted. So they trusted the stranger to come in and do a show. And so I do a presentation. One of the cool things about Longaberger, I'm kind of sad that I forgot to bring a basket today. I was going to actually bring one to show you guys. Because I
have one.
Show you all the intricacies of how they're made by hand. Yeah. But one of the cool things about the company is they encouraged us to tell the story of the company, the founding family. And so it was more than just a product. It was really an experience. It was an emotional connection to this family in Ohio. We used to travel to Ohio annually with bus tours, and people would go over there and shop, and they had all these shops where they sold accessories for the products that we sold in home shows. So like you couldn't get the home show stuff in the store. You had to buy it from a consultant. That's what we were called, independent consultants. So I actually did that for 14 years before I went into ministry and was pretty good at it. So regardless, I know we're going to talk about some of the stats. Like it's not very common for people to actually earn any money at this. I made a decent part-time income with it because I was pretty disciplined, and I actually worked it like a business. I didn't consider it a hobby. And I learned a lot about recruiting and sales and business when I was doing that. And that recruiting actually helped me when I was in children's ministry. So it's just kind of interesting, the experience that I had. But like I said, all three of mine were actual products being sold. And that was the focus more than the recruiting was.
It's really fascinating.
So we've all been attracted in some level. Like we use their products, or we've got hooked in
3 different times.
2 almost struck out.
There's something about it.
We've been hooked in.
Like, hey,
what is like so? What's so attractive about either? Is it the products? Is it the products and the relationship? Is it meeting actual needs? Like, what's so attractive? Because these have been around for a long time. What sucks people in as a consumer, but also as somebody that's using? I mean, that's a consultant or whatever the company would prefer to call them.
I think there's definitely a relational aspect, at least in the companies I was in. Something about the person who recruited you was attractive to you. There was a draw, the opportunity to succeed. Like, I'm a 3 on the Enneagram, so I really like to achieve things and set goals and reach results. So that was a really big deal to me. And it was something that, as a stay-at-home mom, I didn't have much of that at home. You know, nobody gives you stars and awards for changing that diaper one more time. So that was pretty attractive to me.
I think there's like, first of all, I think it's like there's a certain group where someone's doing an MLM and you are related to them, or you have this friendship with them where it's like, sure, I'll help you out, like with a party or something like that. And then there's another thing where it's like people are coming at you and you don't really know them super well. So there's like 2 different things, I guess, that make it attractive. To me, it would be like if you're trying to help somebody out, like a one-time thing, or if it's like a product that you really like, that you're trying to find somebody.
Or to get it at a discount, right?
Yeah.
Nearly all of them offer that. If you have a party, you get some of the product at a discount.
If you're the host, then we'll give you a free bag.
Exactly.
And this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what hooked you in, Eric?
I mean, to me, most of the MLMs, I think they operate, I mean, from my perspective, again, this is opinion, but I see it preying on just the human condition of greed. Like, I mean, the desire to get rich quick, the desire to, chase that American dream that we've kind of been sold. And it's like, hey, you're going to be your own boss. You're going to set your own hours. And I think even to what Dawn's expressed, like for the people that works for, it's no different than setting out and starting a business. Like you have to be pretty, you have to put in the time, you have to put in the effort, and it's not something that's just going to happen overnight. But I think the allure of it a lot of times is like, oh, you're part of this family now, you're special, you can do this. And I don't know that they're explaining to people what is actually what it's going to take from them. And so it's very easy when you're motivated by money and maybe even your own laziness to go like, yeah, this is going to be the answer for me because this is going to be easy. I'm going to make a bunch of money. So, yeah.
Or I think it's also something where, okay, I have this huge bill that I have to pay, but I'm already working a full-time job. I need extra money.
I need to hustle.
Can I work a side hustle? Or maybe it is like I have kids and I need something that I can do while they're napping or something like that. It also makes it attractive.
Yeah, the flexibility is definitely a draw. That was true for me.
And I think most of them that I can at least consider seem to have a, hey, we'll let you try it kind of mentality too. So, and I think anytime a product is like, hey, if this is a trash product, you've got 30 days. I think that's been a classic sales technique for a lot of companies.
But nobody does it.
Well, and I think that's a part of the alluring thing is you buy trust by saying, hey, you try this product risk-free. I mean, we hear that all the time.
Right.
Infomercials, risk-free, 30 days, money back guarantee, all that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of those products do have that. And so you're like, I'll be in. It's worth a risk to like go in and try something. They stand behind their product. And I think that's something that's worth noting, or at least it buys me some trust if you're like, hey, I'm going to stand behind my product. And so to me, I think that's a part of, what's attractive. And I've used, the products of some of these things, and they've seemed to work. Like I said, some of the Pampered Chef things, or they've met needs that are like no one else is meeting those needs. Before like Shark Tank and all those things. I think Pampered Chef had like really a corner on some of those unique things that no one else was selling or had, and so I think that's attractive.
I also think, though, that because of the way they operate, a lot of times it's a bit predatory. And I think, Jess, you kind of mentioned that with, hey, I'm a single mom. I need this income. okay, well, do you actually have sales experience? Are you capable of doing this job? And a lot of times the answer is no. And then they put their money into it because you have to buy the product up front. And then that person above them makes money, the business makes money, but then this person is out that money. And if they don't have the sales experience, they don't know what they're doing, then that's it. They're just the product at that point. They aren't actually selling a product. So I think that part concerns me because I do think it is appealing to people who need income. Mm-hmm. But if you're not able to actually do the job,
right,
then it's not going to help you at all.
I think the article that you shared by John Taylor that's online, The Case for and Against Multi-Level Marketing, he talks about that idea that if there are indeed people that are making this six-figure income, which they document, they're making it on the backs of those people at the bottom of the pyramid, so to speak, who can't really afford it, who go into debt to buy the product in order to sell it.
Right.
So I know one of the warnings was not to get in a company where you have to stock inventory, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when we were both the sales companies, all three of the sales companies I was with, you placed the order and it was shipped directly to the customer or the hostess, depending on how they had it set up. But I never had to own stock except for the things that I showed at my shows. So,
which I think it was around 2015 when it really started getting popular. But LuLaRoe was one where they encouraged their salespeople to stock it.
They did,
and then they would have thousands of dollars.
I was just ready to say, they've actually done an expose on that company because of that.
It's kind of a mess.
Well, that article you referenced was from the Federal Trade Commission. So obviously they, as a government entity, they've seen enough probably issue with maybe just that in general that they're like, hey, we're trying to disciple wouldn't be the word they're using, but we're trying to put warnings out there and are at least trying to help consumers that are, Americans to not fall prey to these things, which is constantly happening, whether it's phishing email. I mean, this is always taking place. People are trying to take advantage of others and it just happens. It's part of human nature. And so
I'd like to go back to your previous question though about why is it attractive? And we haven't talked about the fact that it gives a sense of belonging. Like I'm a part of something bigger. And when you put it in those terms and you think about our responsibility as Christians and disciple makers, why aren't we meeting that need for people? I mean, that's pretty striking because they're like, I just want to be part of something bigger than me. And like, that's what we're calling people to all the time, right?
Yeah. I think that's something even for me that I struggle with. Because in some ways, what these companies are selling is this belief, and the belief is in this better life.
Yeah.
And it's like there's parallels that can be easily drawn to our faith through that, and it's like, man, that erodes at the faith that I have to think that people could be on one hand. Sure, this thing might potentially. There's like this 1-2% chance that you're going to be really successful at it.
Yeah.
And this other thing is eternal life and salvation. And it's like, man, how does that? It cheapens it so much to think that people are being sold this stuff. I don't know. It's tough. It's something I struggle with for sure.
Yeah.
So if we've hit on it a little bit, but I guess let's maybe break down some of the positives, and then we'll focus on some of the negatives. I mean, what are Don, you've mentioned some, but what are other things you see that are positive about people who are involved in MLMs? Are there things that we can take away that are positive?
Well, in my own experience, I gained a ton of training and business experience that literally have shaped the way I approach recruiting. So when I was recruiting for children's ministry, it seems kind of strange to look at it in those terms, but because of my business experience, I had learned to be able to ask the question and not take it personally if people told me no. And I'm telling you, if you're recruiting volunteers for children's ministry, that's an important skill to be able to say, hey, here's this opportunity. I think you'd be a great fit. But if they say no, it's not the right time, I don't take it personally. I don't get deflated. I can keep going. I can keep asking. I can keep making the ask. So that's something that I gained from that experience. I know in our leadership training, even at the church now, we hear speakers at the GLS and things like that. Some of those speakers, those opportunities were open to me when I was in sales with Longaberger. I went to conferences. I heard those speakers. So I've literally been in that culture of John Maxwell leadership training since I was, 5 30, something like that. So I just had lots of experiences that way. I had experiences to use my gifts in public speaking when I was in sales. I did trainings at the national conference way before I ever had a chance to speak at a church.
Wow.
So there's that layer of it. For me, it's just really fascinating to see how God used it in my life as a really positive thing, even though I see the downside. And I was telling Alex the other day when we were talking about this topic, the reality that when I started my ministry job, I was 39, I think, and I retired or resigned from the sales job that same year because there was something about it for me that felt like if I have this influence as a minister at the church, I was afraid that influence would unfairly pull somebody to say yes to the Longaberger opportunity. Like I didn't feel like I could be recruiting to two things. I didn't feel like I could be 100%. This is what I'm passionate about for both a business and my new work at the church. And so that was for me, that was kind of the line in the sand. I could only do one thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that they can typically do, I think that especially is attractive to Christians that want to be a part of community, and I'll just steal all these, just the titles from one of the articles that I read that the Gospel Coalition did on it, because I just thought it was helpful for me at least. But one is like, if you're a part of this, it's attractive because you can love your family well, right? Because you can spend actually more time with your, I mean, this is the sales pitch I think you get, like spend more time with your family, have the weekends, stop, paying the man in or whatever company and actually be present with your family, which yes, like as a Christian father or mother or anybody, yes, sign me up. I want to be a part of that. Another one was more money means more mission. And so like, man, it doesn't matter. And I think this is what even attracts people that have jobs already is they're like, okay, a little extra income. And what could you do with that? Eric, just imagine if you made $200,000 more this year, your family's going to go on vacations, and imagine the kingdom work you can do with that extra money. So more money means more mission.
Brings emotion into
it does.
business.
You need purpose and calling, and this is a way to fulfill your calling, and you can contribute to your family, Dawn, even though you're staying at home. And
you'd be good.
He's already
you need mentors,
people.
So that's a huge part of these companies is you'll have somebody that's ahead of you that is committed to like mentoring you,
helping you succeed.
You need friends. You've got that friendship and the camaraderie and all of those things that come along with it. I've told people this before. I am thankful that I've never gotten into sales because I think I'd be good at it, but it would not like I would probably start to let some of my morals slip because I'm a woo. I'm passionate about things. And so I'm like, man, it would not be a good thing for me to be like, I would be the classic used car salesman probably. And I know that about myself.
No, you just like did. You
I don't
just
know.
Took yourself. I don't know.
I think I almost convinced myself to sign up for one of these just a moment ago with like all the hope that's being sold.
What is it, Alex? What do you say?
Which one should we connect you with?
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what year it was or if there was a specific event that brought about this change in my heart, but I remember being at the I mentioned we would go to Ohio with bus tours, and I'd be shopping and I'd be looking at all these products that I could have. And I kept thinking about how, one more product is not going to make a difference in my life. Why does this really matter? And my upline, all the people that I worked with on my team, they just loved shopping. And there were all kinds of residual shopping trips that weren't related to our product. But because we were making money, we were buying Brighton bags and jewelry and things that were Coach bags. I remember owning a Coach bag. And I got to this point where what I kept struggling with was, why would God give me these gifts of sales and speaking and inspiration and only use them to sell people things they don't really need and can't really afford? And even the best quality products that we could be selling, I think most of us would agree, they're probably not necessary, right? They're probably not needs, and there's so many other things we could be focused on. So there was a real shift in me that last couple of years, and I think God just used it in that time I was being called to ministry. So,
Can you think of anybody like any wake, damage that you are like, man, maybe there's relationships that were done in the wake or things like that that God used my mistakes in that maybe to grow me to get to that point of maturity.
Yeah, I think a combination. So one is looking back, and I'm still in touch with some of the gals that sold Longaberger on my team, and I know them in some ways better now because of Facebook and just family relationships and conversations than I actually did at the time. Because I look back and I was immature and I was all about the business. I was not taking enough time for the people. And the reality was my first couple of years of ministry, that was probably true for me in ministry too. I thought too much about what I could get out of someone volunteering, I need to get my team filled or whatever, and not enough about the relationship with the person. So I've definitely seen that over the last 20 years.
Yeah. And that's easy to, in a church even, like I one of those processes I've learned is like we have to want something more for somebody than from them.
Right.
But that can be difficult, especially when there's spots to fill and you're like, well, you would be really great at this and you don't really know. And then, these people do become a means to an end to get things accomplished rather than somebody that you're discipling and really intentionally being about. So.
Right.
Did you have any positives, Jess?
I just think I'm obviously looking at it as from a consumer versus like selling for MLM. The only thing I've ever sold is Girl Scout cookies, and those aren't hard. Those aren't hard to sell.
I was going to ask, is that a MLM?
Everybody loves those.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is. I had no clue I was a part of it, and I was for many years.
I was a part of
probably
it.
8 years I sold Girl Scout cookies.
Would we call that an MLM?
I don't think so, because they're not
like
the person selling it isn't benefiting
thing.
as much from it. They're not like making a profit off of it.
There's no pressure. You're
somebody's making a profit.
No. The
cute
individual
little Girl Scouts are making a profit.
The girls themselves aren't making the profit.
But I read a lot of posts like, well, we've got these. We already bought the inventory and we've got to sell these, and they're like these cute little girls.
I think those are moms
door.
going rogue. Honestly, that would be my.
I don't know all the rules of it.
Positives, I do think like from a consumer standpoint and the way that people do get. I don't even want to say sucked in, because I think that like it makes the person that's purchasing it seem like a zombie that's like, what can I buy next? Like, I think some people genuinely, and I think a lot of people genuinely love these different things people are selling. I think one of the positives is easy. So it's easy to like click this link and scroll through this and fill your card up and something shows up at your door. And so I think like, you want a new Norwex cloth, buy 3 of them, you get the extra oven mitt to your door.
Well, and I know what I'm purchasing, I'm helping put money in your pocket as a mom or as just an individual versus like I'm,
ordering from Amazon.
Yeah, I'm ordering from Amazon or giving all of it. It gives you that fundraiser in a sense type of feeling.
I think it goes both ways, Eric. You're like making me think, because I think that there's this on one hand we get sucked in with what you were reading about, like, oh, it's friends, like this is the story. But I think I like to know about the things I buy too. Like I like to know what ingredients are in things or where it's coming from or what I'm buying. So I think that's why like it starts feeling like kind of yucky when we like are feeling pressured by our friends or we've bought like one time, but now like we're on a subscription and it's coming every month for a couple. I mean, it just can add up and kind of get out of control, I think.
Yeah.
That subscription approach is relatively recent, isn't it? And it's definitely taken a lot of heat because you don't think to cancel. So it's like you were saying, well, it's a 30-day money back guarantee, but they know that the majority of people won't remember or won't take the time to do it.
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought about the subscriptions. We didn't have subscriptions with Longaberger, but we were constantly trying to create other needs, like other ways you could use this product in this season or that season. And it's a way of just continuing the process. You need more. You need more of this. The other thing a lot of direct sales companies still do, but I know that Longaberger and Tupperware both did it, is they would change styles and colors to create the sense of, what you need the new one.
Yeah.
Well, what company does that now?
everyone.
Apple phones is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I was right. So you got to have the latest and newest thing, and direct sales companies have done that for years. So
when I was trying to think of a positive, because I know we're about to move into the negatives, and I'm like, I got a laundry list of negatives. So I was like, I gotta
stay tuned.
The positive though that I could come up with was, if anything, I learned about myself, and I learned like how incredibly gullible I was, and maybe even greedy, and like, just naive. And I think like over the years, kind of falling for these sales pitches so many times, it was one of those things where I started to identify that, and I think that's a benefit to people that when you're, because you do want to love people well, and you want to care for people, and I think that's such a draw, and I think that's where it becomes so manipulative for these companies to kind of pair this warm fuzzy story with a product. I mean, we all do it all the time. And you mentioned Apple, like they're great at it. They're great at telling stories that lead people to purchase a product. So anyways, that was my positive. I guess that was maybe not the greatest, but what are some of the negatives that we see that we can identify? Maybe just talk about, warn people. Anything stand out? Anybody want to go first?
Go for it.
I know right now that there are like, probably, I'm just trying to think of how to phrase this in case the people listen. I know I have a few unread messages in my inbox right now that I'm making sure don't have read receipts to them, that I know are attached to an invitation to something like this, just because I've seen it all over their social media and I've already said no. And so I'm like, dude, we don't talk ever. Like, you don't really care about how life's been since high school, like all of those things. And so I know based on your other social media what you do, and like I just need to suck it up and say, no, I'm not interested. But I'm maybe that's the confrontational part of me. So I know that that's one of those negatives, is like, man, sometimes it makes me question people's desire to know me or to actually care about my life. And maybe there's a sincerity to it, and I just feel like I'm a product being sold. And so I know that for me, that's one of those negative, yucky friendship types of things, is like, I don't want to, because I don't want to say no to you and you to take that as rejection. Right. And I know, maybe for someone with your personality, Dawn, you're like, I'm not going to take that as rejection every time. But there are people that it's so tied to their identity that I don't want to, and I already see maybe some of the pain that they're going through, that I'm like, I don't want to be another person that pushes you down in the middle of this season. And so
I had a story like that on Facebook. Somebody reached out on Facebook and wished me a happy birthday on a message, which, a lot of people just post on your wall, but it was on a message, and it was somebody that is really just an acquaintance. I don't know him well. And I was like, well, that was nice. And I just wrote back, thank you. And their response was, you're welcome, with a follow-up question, hoping to engage me in conversation. So I answered the question and was like, that's kind of weird. Haven't heard from him in ages, right? Yeah. Within a couple of hours, I got almost the exact same message from somebody else, with the same follow-up response question, hoping to pull me in. I answered the question, looked on their Facebook accounts, and both of them were in the same sales company. Like, they had taken a pattern of how to connect with somebody. Be sure to send a Facebook message, because the Facebook message post happy birthday was word for word.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy. And both of them were people I barely knew. And that's the yucky part that you're talking about. It's like, don't even.
I find
don't
that
even with me.
Very hurtful.
Yeah.
And that's happened, I feel, not on my birthday, Dawn.
I know, right?
Not on my birthday, but it's definitely happened to me in the past. And I have always, I don't want to say dreamed, but I've always maybe fantasized about having the courage to confront somebody, because it just does genuinely hurt me. And finally, somebody got lucky and they messaged me, and I was like, wow, this is somebody I haven't talked to in a long time. And I was like, I bet they're checking up on me. And I read it and my heart sank. And I'm like, this isn't okay that I feel this way.
Yeah.
And you feel okay doing that. So I was like, hey, this is hurtful to me. I was just like, this really hurts my feelings that you came about it this way. I was expecting for you to care and have this conversation. Right. And that never happened. And it was like very shocking for them because I think they're going off a business model. But I'm like, hey,
this is what my boss told me to do.
I think that a lot of us just say, hey, no thanks, whatever. I'm like, I think I want to be a little more vocal about how that makes me feel. I think it's a way that we can like kind of advocate for ourselves. Also, not to make it into a huge deal, but
I don't know about you, but as a woman of a certain age, when I got the message that said they had a skincare product that they thought I could benefit from or a beverage that could help me lose weight, that was not a plus in my mind. It did not attract me to them or to their business model.
Not having it.
Thanks anyway.
Well, I also see a pattern of a lot. I mean, I don't know the percentages, but it seems like a lot of these companies are targeted at women to build these companies. And I think we talked about this, a couple weeks ago about friendship and how friendships are kind of at an all-time low. And I think you see this thing where, maybe a woman's buying into this and expecting to have a relationship with this person above her. And then it becomes this thing where, well, that whole relationship is now built on this business, and if they're not buying product or recruiting other people, there is no real relationship at all. And I think that becomes very abusive and hurtful to people, and that's just one of them. Any other negatives while we're focusing on this part?
I mean, I think a lot of them are built on, like, I remember a couple of years ago, It Works. It just popped up out of nowhere, and there's all these body wraps, and so much of them are built on health, I think, health and wellness.
Last decade, especially.
Even, like the essential oils and things like that. Not to say none of the products can work, but it's built on health and this desire. I mean, the diet industry in the United States, worldwide, is like one of the biggest ones. It's selling you promises that... and preying on your insecurities, whether that's financial insecurities or insecurities about the wrinkles you see in your face, and or your hair or whatever it is. And so it's preying on your insecurities to, pull you in and give you a product that might work. And then it's kind of, you built all these relationships around people with these insecurities that they might have. And I remember one time going with a friend because I signed up one time for Advocare because this thing called Spark, which was kind of their energy drink, healthy kind of powder you put in a drink. And so I'm like, okay, I'll sign up for it so I can buy it, at whatever price. And I remember a friend invited me to like one of those rah rallies that you were talking about a little bit earlier, Eric, where you went to. And I remember just going in there, and the whole feeling of it was like Diamond members, and all the things we've gotten to do, and we're awesome people, and you need to be like us. And it's this just drive toward money, success, toward prestige, and continuing to climb a ladder, but also seeing those people like I can get there. And it's all, I mean, we do this everywhere. We do this in the church. It's the highlight reel kind of stuff, and not realizing all of that is really built on the backs of everybody in this room. That's a part of it, but it's trying to sell you on this dream that's hopefully attainable, which to me is just like, man, like, we're called not to covet, and this is built on this flaw that we want to covet, and built on, like you were saying, Eric, this desire for greed, which we all do have. We want more and need more, and so it's built on these, I think, desires that we should be crucifying as believers, but they're so lucrative and attractive, and then disguised as, like I was saying earlier, more money, more mission. It's because a lot of them have some kind of, if you do history, like Christian, nice origin story type of founding, which I remember the Mars Hill podcast talked about, even that desire for this origin story, which I thought was interesting when you talked about that, the Longaberger thing really does pull us in. If I can be a part of, continue that origin story, that beautiful American dream.
Carry the legacy.
I want to do that, and there's this deep part, God-given part of us that that longs to be a part of those things that are bigger. And but then it seems like all it's showing is envy. It's creating envy. It's creating strife. It's creating covetousness.
And so much of those stories, though, I mean, you can even draw parallels to ourselves, just the way we share stories and the way we remember as human beings. We tend to kind of, it's like the big fish story. We tend to block out a lot of the negative parts of the journey because we want to focus on the good parts when we're sharing that story. So we kind of mold history a little bit and we twist it, and we're a little bit deceitful in that. And even if that's not our desire, it just kind of happens naturally. And so I think there's just so much of human nature that's all intertwined to this, and the way that we sell stories and we sell ourselves, and we omit the parts that are ugly and dirty, and we don't want to share with others.
I think it's sad and dangerous to also conflate Christianity with the sales company. And I understand where the story comes from. It's like, because I did this, I know one of the jewelry companies is like, we give this much to missions every year. And they sell it on that base. But when I was in Longaberger, I'd probably been in it 5 or 6 years. So I had a rhythm and I was doing well at it. And my brother approached us about another company that you named earlier, and that you didn't join 3 times. And he approached us, and I said to my husband, I said, there's no way I want to add a second business responsibility on top of what I do. If you want to do this, it's yours to do. I've got my own.
Yeah.
And so he decided to sign up. And one of the experiences we had, I'll share a funny story, and I'll also share a less funny story because I want to make my point about the conflation with Christianity, was we went to a conference or rally on a Sunday morning where they had worship. I could not tell you if there was actually any Bible teaching or any worshiping of God, but we sang some worship songs. And so just that, putting the two side by side together, like we're all here together and part of what we're doing is this, and oh, by the way, also it's Sunday morning, so we're going to do that, was not a healthy thing. The funny part was there was another rally, because, he was in it for about a year. It was a long year. And we went to a rally on our anniversary.
Oh, romantic.
Wasn't it romantic? Yes. And he said, we're going to, it does. He knows. We're going to have this conversation almost every year on August 16th, and because it stands out. And we got there, and he said, well, at least they're going to have dinner for us. And we got there. It was at some school. We were late because we got lost on the road, and there were like 2 empty pizza boxes. Yeah. There was no dinner. It was very sad. So anyway, it's just another funny network marketing
pizza
story.
On anniversary is
pizza
also
on
not funny. Lots of things.
It's funny because it kind of reminds me of a conversation we've had about, maybe I've had with other people about Christian business in general. And like, I remember going, when the yellow pages were a thing, you'd flip through it and sometimes you'd see the Jesus fish by a business. And it's like, oh, okay, well, I should get my oil changed there because that's a Christian business. And it comes from this honest desire to support other people in the faith.
Right.
Like you want to do. But when you realize that, and we've seen this in the political realm extensively in the last 10 years or so, but it's like when you're being manipulated because of your faith, that's where it's a problem. And I think that's where we really need to use discernment, because so many times it's easy for that, because you want to believe that if someone says, I'm a Christian or this is a Christian business, well, then that's something of honor to support this.
Right.
But you gotta use discernment and be willing to admit that maybe you're being manipulated because of your faith.
Yeah. I pulled out this Christianity Today article that you printed off for me, because one of the things that stood out was at the end when she was talking about why so many evangelical Christian women specifically seem to be targeted by or drawn to these kind of opportunities. And at the end, she says, ask whether those hands are indeed fulfilling God's call or if they could be put to other use. And it kind of goes back to what I said earlier about, I felt like some of my gifts were used in multi-level marketing that weren't being used or appreciated in the church. And so maybe there's women out there that are like, they have leadership gifts, they have speaking gifts, and they're getting opportunities to use them in these other avenues when they don't always have those open doors at the church. So I thought that was fascinating too.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like I said earlier too, that the Federal Trade Commission, that study that they talked about, I mean, just one of the negatives is just knowing the stats. I mean, they did a 15-year research on 350 companies and the people that were employed by them. And they said 99% of people didn't make money. That's a pretty overwhelming, statistic.
Right.
Either lost money or just didn't, never made money. Maybe they got their money back like you did, Eric, or whatever. And obviously those I don't know how many Americans have in some way bought into one. Like I would never say I've been a part of one, but I've bought into one. So I'm somewhere in that statistic, as well, but not knowingly, not trying to be involved, but I just like the product and I want the discount and I'm cheap, So, I mean, that's a part of the reality too, that they know is going to be building and somebody's building their career. So like, we're just got to sell it to as many people as we can right now, because that's going to help us. But I think anytime that and you've used, I don't remember the actual term, Dawn, but people, I don't know, upline. Mm-hmm. So then you've got
a downline.
Yeah. And so that's where the multi-levels, are happening. And so you have to keep people upline happy, probably, and you're a part of their network expanding and their expansiveness. But then also like downline, you've got people that, breakup conversations are probably always happening where like, apparently that one guy that you talked about, Eric, you're the first breakup conversation he ever had.
Ever. In the whole history of the business.
But there is that fear of like, and probably plays into it of, how's this going to affect us, Eric? Like if you don't buy from me anymore, or especially if we're friends, or if I have to admit to you that we're in a tight spot right now, and that's going to mess with my ego and my pride.
He literally gave me that sales pitch of my kids have to eat.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So definitely got that guilt trip.
And so there's those types of things that we can do that are yucky, I think, to relationships where we maybe and maybe because we've been trained in this way that person that sent you the two people that sent you happy birthday messages are like, no, this is perfectly okay. Like I'm leading with something good. I'm noticing it's this person's birthday and I'm a good person. How many other people are doing that? And so we can kind of convince ourselves, I think, that what we're doing is honorable and good, and not to say none of it is, but I don't know. For me, I can convince myself of those things and not really realize the wake or the damage that's being created because I'm just like, it's okay.
Well, and with the advent of social media and the way that it's being used to manipulate people through MLMs, it's just a whole new ball game. I think you saw through the pandemic, a lot of people were desperate because they lost their jobs. They're looking for ways to make money at home. The MLMs were growing for a while there during the pandemic because of that. But then also there was a lot of pushback. And I think it just, like you said, it damages friendships, it damages relationships. But part of me, I'm just surprised because you think, oh, well, younger generations are getting more savvy to this, but it's still like the way it is presented in different ways and new ways every time seems to grab people's attention. So.
Well, anytime one popular one pops up, there's going to be someone else that sees it and becomes an enemy. And so in a divided country already, you've probably got Avon versus Mary Claire. She's a resident. They're coming for you, Mary Claire.
Shouts out to Mary Claire.
What am I thinking?
Mary
Kay. So sorry.
So close.
And then, like I know you've got Young Living and doTERRA, which are the two big essential oil. So then you even tribalize yourselves even more in some of these things. And then you've become so deeply into them that you're so inundated with the research that these people are doing, but not really FDA backed kind of stuff. And I remember even some of the masking and COVID stuff was just like, no, I mean, it's fine as long as you this is all fake. If you just squirt this on your toe, then like it's going to be okay. And then some of it is tied into like this deeply religious these people with deeply religious, and God almost revealed to them almost in some prophetic way to go to this place and get this, certain oil because we care about you. Like we want what's best for you. And that's why we're selling this product, is not because we want any money. Like this isn't about money. This is because we want you to we love you. We want you to be healthy. And that can get very manipulated pretty quickly.
Yeah. I think that like I'm kind of cringing a little bit because I know we're like being very negative towards MLMs, and I think that there really is good people that genuinely like have good intentions with it. I think like, yes, people can get manipulated or can get sucked into it, but then it's just like, I know people that are a part of these and they also don't pressure me,
right,
and they are making money. And so it's just like, it gets so convoluted where it's like we see the negative part, but also it is helping somebody, and it is helping somebody pay the bills and take their kids on vacation. And I think like that's where I think when we're looking at these, like, do your research before you buy into something. Eric, I'm glad you did. You'd probably they'd be coming for you. But it's just like, it's such a, I think more than anything, as we're talking, like a warning of like, man, I need to be doing research for myself. And like, I'm thinking about it, like, obviously, like we're sitting in a church. So I'm like, just like I make my faith my own and it's not somebody else's. It's like the decisions that I make for myself and my family, they have to be researched, and I have to, Google some things or look stuff up on YouTube before I buy into stuff. Like, I think with anything, we have to do research on it because there is good stuff.
Right.
And I think that's where it gets messy, is because it's like there's this dark underside to things, and then it's like, oh, there's this cloth that you literally cleans your windows, and you need nothing but water. And so it's just like, it gets so messy.
Well, I think what you said about doing your research specifically beyond just talking to the person who gains from you saying yes, not just listening to the recruiter with all the benefits of the company, but actually checking it out online and finding out what kind of financial backing they have, how the money is made. Like I said, if it's based on selling products, that's legit, that's direct sales. But if it's only based on when you sign somebody else up to do it, then that's where it gets kind of messy. So just to be aware of that is good.
I think one of the passages that came to mind, we've all heard, money is the root of all evil, which I don't think is the true. So I'll read the actual passage from 1 Timothy 6, 9 through 10. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. And I just was thinking of that passage because there's this desire for success, and I think it's God-given. It's part of being made in the image of God to rule and reign with God, and we can take that desire to really become God or money. And Jesus warns about that so many times. Is like, hey, you can't have two masters. Right. And so you either are mastered by money or it masters you. It's just the reality. But we have this desire that we have to know as disciples of Jesus. I have this desire for success. Where is this coming from? I know that I'm tempted towards these types of things, and a lot of people, it takes them into bad spots. And so just even knowing the statistics, I remember just in student ministry, man, how many times I plead with families of like who are convinced their kid's going pro, right? And it's a long shot. A very, very long shot. And those odds are even, I think, 2% of people go pro. That's double the shot of like making a living off of this. And so I think just knowing what we're up against, and because a lot of people I've seen it ruin a kid's life, in the long term, because you've taken them out of all community and activities and church and all of this, because you as a parent love your kids so much and you want them to be successful, and you see a glimmer, and a coach has said there's a glimmer of hope in that. And man, we can fully all sail, dive fully in. I've seen people go into debt. Over that investment of sports and MLMs, that both of those are things that we just have to be cautious of, and knowing we're batting against the odds. And even if you're signing up to do it, the odds are not in your favor. Doesn't say don't try it, but just knowing that going into it would save a lot of people from
for sure
from jumping in at a desperation point, because if you're at a desperation point, that's probably not going to be your savior, you know? And if somebody's listening to this now, and you are at a desperation point and those things are attractive, I do want you to know that reach out to us as a church, because we want to be a place that resources people in the long run that are in these desperation points. And we don't want to prey on you or ask for any of your money. That's not what it's about, but we do want to help people that are in those real situations, maybe that have found themselves and you made a mistake and you're ashamed because I gave all my money to this MLM and I've got all this product. Like we're not here to shame you. Like we want to be there to help you and help you be financially solvent and find freedom and all those things as well. And so,
yeah. Well, is there any, Don, I mean, do you have any closing thoughts or anything? Did we cover it all?
So many stories, but
do you want to sell me a basket?
No, okay. I don't have any contracts with any companies anymore. I've got plenty to do right here at the church. So I agree with Alex. I said just encouraging people to recognize that if they're struggling financially, an MLM is probably not the answer to their problems. If they're looking for community, an MLM is probably not the best answer to their problems, right? So some of the things that we talked about being benefits even, there might be some times when it's a good fit for your family. And if so, that's great. I loved that I was able to do it when I was a stay-at-home mom. So I didn't have the 8-to-5 job to get childcare for. So that can be a great benefit. But just be realistic about what you're going into and feel free to ask questions.
Because it does take a certain type of personality, a certain gifting that you have, some voice that you have. Yeah. And so I think that's something you got to identify. Yeah. All right. Well, that does it for our conversation on MLMs. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks Don for being here. Appreciate your insight. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can reach out to us on social media at CCC Omaha, or you can send us an email directly to this podcast. That email is podcast@cccomaha.org. Until next time, we'll talk to you then.